Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Mic'd Podcast. I'm Mike, a hairdresser of over 20 years. One of the best parts of my job is the conversations that I get to have with all of my clients. We talk about anything and everything and invite you to listen in as we get mic'd up for today's conversation. Today we have Meredith in the chair, and we talk about a 5-month trip through Europe that her and her husband decided to take their 5 kids on. We talk about the lessons they learned and what they feel it did for their family dynamics. Please enjoy.
Good.
That's what we're going to do. So thank you for coming
and
being a part of this.
Thanks for inviting me.
Having, I honestly, there's a lot of questions that I have for you that I want to ask because I'm really fascinated. Like, I will say, like, I'm really glad you're here because you truly are one of my favorite. You've always been so easy to talk to. You have amazing stories. And I think that you're just open for anything. Your hair, you're just like, whatever, just do it how you want. So it makes it fun. Like, as a hairdresser,
Thank you.
A lot of times, you get into the rut of doing the same thing. So people that are just open to cut this, do this, whatever.
Get out the buzzers.
I appreciate it. But I appreciate you as a person too.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I've been going to you for a long time.
Yeah, it's been...
Well, how long?
Well, I mean,
13?
we've known each other. I still remember meeting you in hair school when I was in hair school.
Yeah, Dallas Roberts.
So 20.
Because you were like teaching at Dallas Roberts, weren't you? Weren't you doing?
Yeah, I did teach there for a while, but I'm trying to remember.
When Stacy was there.
Yes.
Because that's when I was roommates with her, and I think that's when we met.
Yeah, I met you, and it was for a photo shoot. You were doing some photo shoot at the school, and just letting.
Yeah, I was a big time model. No big deal. No,
hey, you know what? You've actually done modeling. The only claim to fame I had is I was an arm model once.
That's a big deal.
I had a client
but
that was
not just anybody can be an arm model.
All she wanted was this part of my arm. And I was
She's
like
little
nothing
less.
else. She's like, no, cover your
little
hands.
less.
They're kind of ugly. Your elbows, no, just your forearms.
This is prime real estate. This 3 inches of your forearm.
It's like that episode of Seinfeld when they hire him to be a hand model.
Hand model.
And he starts walking around with oven mitts everywhere to protect his asset.
Oh my gosh.
No, but somewhere out there in the
Seinfeld
world, there is a
best.
bronze statue of my arms.
I want to find it.
If you ever see
if I ever walk by and be like, that's Mike's forearm right there.
Can I touch it?
I'd know that forearm anywhere.
You'll be
you
like,
kidding
hey,
me?
I recognize that forearm.
It's Adam, right?
Yeah.
Adam, I just thought of another episode of Seinfeld when he was like, you have great stories. I was like, oh no, this is like pressure. And now I'm going to have to be like dark and disturbed, Do you remember that episode?
Yeah.
When George brings this new girl and she thinks he's hilarious, but then Jerry's funnier.
Oh yeah, so he tells Jerry to tone it down.
Funny, yeah.
So then Jerry starts to be really boring.
And then she's like super attracted to it.
Yeah.
She's like, he's dark and disturbed, and I'm so drawn to that, Sometimes when people are like, she's funny, this is Meredith, this is what I was telling you about, I'm like, don't tell her, don't say I'm funny. Then I get all weird and dark and disturbed. I have to be like, how's everybody's evening going tonight?
Did you hear about that death today?
I know, seriously.
That would be Debbie Downer.
I met Trey Kennedy once. He's a comedian. I don't know if you know who he is.
I love Trey Kennedy.
Yeah, he's funny. He was in a restaurant next to us, and I was like, how is it just like being funny for like your livelihood? Like, how do you do that? Like, how that kind of pressure? Like, let me support my family and my whole livelihood and just making good jokes? Like, that would be so hard, I think.
Well, but
then people expect you to be funny all the time.
All the time. Like, if you're at a party, you're on, right? And sometimes you don't feel like being on. Like, I don't know, you'd probably get old. They say what, Mike?
They say that comedians and people, they really are some of the saddest people, though.
Robin Williams.
You got Robin Williams. Comedians. It's a very lonely road to be.
Yeah.
Up on stage and make people laugh, and a lot of them. I mean, I'm not a comedian, so I don't know, but like from what I understand, they're always, the ones that do make fun of themselves have a lot of insecurities, or at least that's what I've heard.
Well, or that's like a part of them they can't really access on like the daily basis. interactions, but when they're up on stage, all of a sudden they can tap into it. But as far as like the one-on-one human connection, they struggle.
Yeah.
I've heard that too.
I think it would be exceptionally hard to be up on stage and try to make people laugh all the time.
Oh my gosh, so much pressure.
Or you've got actors that are funny, and then people come up to them, like Kramer, speaking of Seinfeld. People always said that the guy that played Kramer in real life was very much an introvert and didn't like being around people, but people knew him as Kramer, so they were always
so they wanted
just
him to be like,
they were like, hey, what's
giddy
going
up
on? And
all the time.
You know, and as an introvert,
Yeah.
my wife's an introvert. It would be very
that's draining.
Yeah, it would be really hard, I think. But oh man, I don't know.
I know. He said it was kind of hard. He didn't open up to me as much as I would like in that hour-long dinner next to us.
So he wasn't at dinner with you; he was just at the table next to you.
No, and I was just.
You start hassling him.
I know. I'm like, I'm not gonna let you go.
You're like,
I'm
just
like,
sit with us.
I don't know how to say this, but I'm actually funny too. So.
You're like, can I be on some of your videos?
You're the most awkward there's ever been. I'm like, but like, how do you deal with the pressure of being funny all the time? Like, this is the way you live, make your living. I don't know. I know you might not know that. You might just think I'm just sort of like a middle-aged mom, but I'm actually funny. So, anyways, he was like, oh. I'm like,
he's probably,
I'm like, oh, you don't think so?
But isn't that would be interesting? He might be one of those people that when he's on,
I don't know.
he's
Maybe.
a completely different person.
But that whole like duality would be exhausting because exactly what you're saying, like people seeing you around, like wouldn't you just like shun the public at all times because people connect with that like public persona and that's what they expect? That would be so hard.
Well, but I guess that's A-list celebrities and stuff like that. They can't avoid being out in public because they have people that'll do everything. If you're more of the B-list,
right?
You still have to go out.
Still got to go to Walmart,
and people are still going to be like, recognize you.
Right.
Maybe not every single person. Like it's not like a Brad Pitt or somebody walking down
But people are like, aren't you that guy from such and such?
From somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always try to avoid, if I ever see people that I know or I recognize from something, I always try to avoid them. I don't know why.
That's so funny. My wife does the same thing.
People that you know?
People.
Like if we're in her hometown and she sees somebody who she went to high school with, she's like, we need to go this other way.
Oh. She's just like, I don't like the run-ins.
She doesn't. I'm totally the opposite. I I running into people I haven't seen in forever.
I want to twirl hug everybody I see that I know. I'm like, bring it in. You sat behind me in 10th grade geometry.
I haven't seen you in 15 years.
I know.
I'm very much the.
But when I see celebrities, I don't usually leave them alone either, as demonstrated with Trey Kennedy. I met Alice Cooper once. And I was like, get over here, you big lug. You're taking a picture with me. He was like, this is how rumors start. I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm not actually hitting on you at all, dude.
You're like, that's not what this picture is for, but okay.
I think
Alice Cooper.
I didn't get on my knees and I am not worthy or anything like that. So
you didn't go Wayne's World? Yeah.
Oh, no. Man.
Luckily, we're not worthy. No, but I should have made reference to that scene. That's the best. No, I don't know. Celebrities are just, this is the way I look at celebrities. Because I've ran into a few and have met a few. I know. Unless you're in their inner circle. They don't want to be hassled. They're just normal people. They just make a whole heck of a lot more money than the average person. So yeah, and probably get a lot of people coming up to them all the time. So I mean, I think that if I was to see a celebrity, like we went to dinner once and, not a huge celebrity, but big enough, Donny Osmond was sitting there. And we just, we made contact, like where they knew we were looking, and I was just like, I enjoy your stuff. You do what you. Nice. I enjoy your music. Pretty good. That was it. But I'm not gonna. I don't know. It's weird to me. I'm the same. You're not gonna fangirl. I met Tiger Woods. I was skiing up at Deer Valley, and he was in the lift line behind me. And I looked back and I was like, "You're Tiger Woods, huh?" He goes, "Yeah." And I could tell he was trying to be kind of like incognito. I was like, "Hey, man." And I tried not to draw any attention. You were like, "Hey, Tiger, you want to go to the Sizzler and get some grub?"
Hey, can you help me fix my backswing?
Hey, no, we're here.
Sizzler.
The Sizzler. Sometimes I dress up like a celebrity and try to get noticed, but just
Just
put on
start
big sunglasses. And
Do you
walk
have a
around.
celebrity doppelganger, Mike?
Just start offering autographs.
You know, people said I look like, this is years ago, there was one guy in the Backstreet Boys, I can't remember which one he was. Like,
Yeah.
he was, when I didn't have a beard and
Yeah.
stuff, they were like,
I don't remember which one, but I know which one you're talking
yeah.
about.
People would say that. That was
see
kind of
that.
my celebrity doppelganger, I guess. I don't know. That or, yeah.
My fire. We showed him.
NSYNC is getting back together.
Shut up. Freaking love NSYNC.
They're just doing one song, isn't it?
JT?
Yeah, they're doing one song for the new Trolls movie or something.
Oh my gosh, I
If
gotta
I-
call my sister. We went to that concert.
In
I
sync?
swear, we had a lot of eye contact going on.
So let's
I was
be-
13, but they were into it.
Because this is a big debate that I've had with my wife before. NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
NSYNC all the way.
Really? See, I lean more Backstreet Boys.
That's because that's your doppelganger.
I've just always liked their
Really?
music better. I feel like
Have you heard the NSYNC Christmas album?
Oh my gosh.
I have a Christmas gift for you. If you haven't, and you're gonna
Oh,
change
Holy
your
Night?
mind.
The acapella, Oh Holy
So
Night?
good.
Are you kidding
Thank
me?
you, Adam.
okay, all right.
So
well,
good.
I'll have to
Under
do
my
that.
tree. I mean, there's just
You know, this might be weird though. Like Christmas music, I'm gonna be honest. Like, there's two types of music that one particular that I just cannot stand listening to. I appreciate that there's people that make it and whatever, and I
Yes.
like the old school, but country, I can't do country and Christmas music.
Oh,
People always
really?
say I'm a Grinch about Christmas music because I'm like, well, we should listen to it
And
like the
country
week
music-
of Christmas.
not liking country music is kind of grinchy too.
Yeah, I don't
Because, like Garth Brooks,
I've
standing
just
outside
never-
the fire.
No.
Do you know that song?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The stupid thing is I loved country dancing, loved it, but I hated
That's
the
so
music.
surprising.
So
Did you want to like country dance to hip hop or something? What was your music
yeah.
of choice growing up?
Oh, I mean, I was a
You like
product of the '90s. I was a grunge, Nirvana,
Okay.
Foo
Third Eye
Fighters,
Blind.
Yeah.
like all of
Collective
those.
Soul.
Bush. Oh, that was.
I
one of
heard
my first
Glycerine the other
concert.
day and I was like transported. I was seriously like, oh, don't let the days go by. You know how just like throaty his voice is? It's amazing.
But like those are the kinds of
kids
songs.
were
Like
like,
I can
"Mom."
even live was in it. Lightning Crashes was a really
Oh,
big
so
one.
good.
Lightning
Oh man,
crashes.
now I'm just craving all of this.
But see, I mean, that's back in the days, like when kids could actually go to their concert. I mean, I remember those concerts were like $10. Like going to those shows. When I saw Bush for the very first time, it was at the radio station X96 did their big ass show. My ticket was $9.96, and it was
See?
an all day concert. And you saw Bush, Moonpools,
It's so
and
sad.
Caterpillars, Everclear.
Our world is not.
Now it's
that
like
world anymore.
$800
It's so
to go sit on
sad.
the back row of Taylor Swift.
Everything is so expensive.
It's
Everything.
wild.
And you should be able to pay $10 to go listen to live music.
Yeah.
Like, it's so sad to me.
Although now, like, I feel like people don't get as invested. I mean, with the exception, again, Taylor Swift, she has done an amazing job as far as like making people.
Yes,
a
her
fan.
whole product.
She
and her,
is.
yeah.
The people are a fan of not just one song of hers. It's like everything.
Right.
But back in the days, like we used to go to Sam Goody or whatever, the record store, and you would buy your little cassette tape. You'd
Your
run
CD,
home,
yeah.
put the cassette in, and unfold that like accordion shape insert and
Look at
read
all the
along with all the
lyrics.
lyrics, and you would become
You're
a
so
true
happy.
fan. Like now, it's like one hit. Like bands today, I feel like their goal is to make one hit and then get enough so they can go on tour.
But don't you feel like being famous has kind of lost some of its, because of the world of technology that we live in, the age of technology, like anybody can be famous for nothing, like starting a TikTok trend or reality TV. I just feel like it's sort of diluted. Like people used to have to like actually have talent to be famous.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is it used to be, you would be famous for doing something great. Now,
Or something super scandalous. One of the two, right?
you're famous for doing
Nothing.
something.
Or just something weird and quirky. Like, I don't know. Yeah, there's anybody can just post anything now and all of a sudden it goes viral and
Now you get famous on TikTok for lip syncing things other
Yeah.
famous people say and
yeah.
do.
And you're like, what what is this? Like, what is this skill? This is not a skill. This is weird.
There's actually a thing about being like the best lip syncer on TikTok.
Oh my gosh. See, yeah, my kids, I'm so anti-TikTok, YouTube, all this stuff. I mean, YouTube has good stuff, but when my kids just want to watch kids being dumb. And I'm like, you are cooler than these kids. Like, you guys are cooler than the kids you're watching. Like, what's happening? Like, why?
100%.
It's just a weird phenomenon that, like, I don't know.
Well, but I think you've got to give your kids the encouragement to basically say you guys are cool in a sense. Like, I think so many people just tend to look at those things online and just think, I'm never going to be like that. I mean,
oh my gosh. I tell my kids they're way cooler than other kids all the time. That's the main takeaway from my parenting. You're so much cooler than her. No, but like these YouTube things, yeah, I just don't get the allure. I'm like, just because it's on TV, like, that's weird. You have funnier stuff.
But see, I think this is one of those things. Maybe this is where I wanted to kind of talk to you. You give your kids enough experiences that I feel like they wouldn't be spending too much time scrolling through social media a lot anyway, because you guys keep them busy with other things and experiences that they get, maybe.
We're really conservative. We try to be, but if they had their way, they would want to go home and just veg out.
Yeah.
But
you guys keep them busy.
We try
with stuff.
to.
Like this is the one thing I was really I wanted to just pick your brain about and stuff. And we've talked about this previous, but not on a podcast. So
let's do it.
Because you guys decided, you and your husband made a decision to take off for, was it 5 months?
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to get out for 5 months and go travel Europe with your family, which sounds, to me, it's just like, wow, what a project. Like, I'm sure it was an insane amount of work. I'm sure it was an insane amount of time spent trying to organize and get everything going. But I'm curious, like, how did that conversation come up? And how did it actually become, we're doing this?
Yeah.
And then once we get through that part of it, I want to know, like, the outcome. Like, was it as successful or an epic failure? So yeah,
a lot of things in life are both. It just depends on your perception and the way you're going to choose to look at it, right?
Okay, that's true.
We have always wanted to give our kids an international experience. I didn't grow up traveling. He didn't either. Like, we just, as adults, have traveled a lot more and have had the opportunity to. And so we just wanted to have kind of an extended experience. We took them to Costa Rica for a month. This was in 2019, right when my husband stepped down as CEO of a company that he had been running. So there's a unique situation that is maybe not as common. I don't know that he could step away.
I think everybody, if you're in that position and you're like, hey, we're stepping down from this, I'm going to take some time off. That's a totally natural, like, I'm going to do this. And so to do it, how many kids do you have?
We have 5.
You have 5. Okay. And
so
aging from?
When we went to Costa Rica, our youngest was 2 and he's 6 now. So we went to Europe and our 5 kids, ages 6 to 14. So we always had wanted to. I think that there's something about travel that, for me, just like sets my soul on fire. Like, I am like, I don't know, my sense of wonder and awe and marvel at different cultures and different landscapes and all of the things, like, it just makes my heart soar. I don't know how to even put words to it. And so we knew that we wanted, we had talked about, let's maybe take a year and go down to Costa Rica, or we both speak Spanish. So, just have kind of dabbled in some things. But then all of a sudden it was like, you know, he's not really working the normal 9 to 5 or anything like that. So we had more time on our hands. So we just thought, oh, our youngest is 5. Like, we're not dealing with diapers and naps and strollers. And our oldest is 14. Like, now she's a sophomore in high school, which I'm like having an identity crisis, having a kid that old, you know? But I'm like, maybe this is the time. Like, we always talked about doing it. Something about my husband that I love and that also makes me go, hold on, wait, and pull the reins, is that as soon as he starts talking about an idea, like, the wheels are being put into motion to make it happen. We start talking in our last house about renovating and adding a family room on our house, and the next day he's like, we have an appointment with a renovation group, we have an appointment with an architect, and I'm like, oh, like, so I've learned to be really cautious with what I say, like, I think we should do this, because once it starts, he's already doing it. He's taking the steps to put it into motion. This wasn't really like the culture that I just wasn't like, I don't know. And I didn't even know how to define that in myself until I married him. And then I didn't, you know, like, I didn't realize that about myself, that I like to just talk, marinate for a long time about ideas.
Well, but I think
right?
I think a lot of people, that's kind of, everybody loves to throw an idea out. But when it comes to the action,
execution,
to make it actually a reality, there's a lot of people, that's where most people will say,
yeah.
I mean, I really do think, and it's funny because, like, traveling, I think a lot of people, I can't tell you the amount of people that say, oh, I wish I could go here. And really, you can go. You just have to plan it.
Just start taking this, what's step one of making that happen?
Yep.
You
and
know?
if step one might be just booking a flight,
right?
Book the flight. But how many times do you go? I mean, I've done this before. You search and you're like, oh, I'd love to go to Europe.
Yeah.
See all the prizes, see everything, but you never click.
Never. I know.
To, like, make it. You're like, there's always a reason to talk yourself out of it.
It infuriates him because he'll come to me and I'll be like, we can talk about it. And he's like, we're talking about it now. He's like, we are talking about it. Why are you saying we can talk about it? This is the conversation. And I'm like, we'll talk about it later. It's fine. Anyways, so yeah.
So you talked to us. So then
we
this
talked
one was
to
Costa Rica, right?
That was in 2019. So we had been talking about it, and then we went to Egypt last year, and one of the couples that we met were just like immediate connection, immediately just totally loved them so much. But they had done this. They had taken their kids out for a semester of school. Part of the time they went to South America, part of the time they went to Europe, and started telling us about this, that they did this. And Jason's like, should we do that in January? And this was the February before, so a year away. And
so this didn't come when you were in Costa Rica. You weren't like,
no,
hey, we did Costa Rica, that was great, let's do longer.
No.
Like, okay.
But we had talked about doing a longer time, but like nothing solidly coming together. Anyways, they start talking about this. He looks at me. He's like, should we do that? Like from January, the January semester? And then I just knew, I'm like, we are doing that in January. Like, because he said that to me. I'm like, sure. I think we're already doing it.
Me?
No, I think we're already doing it. And he's considerate. He's not like, you know, doesn't just mull me over at all. I know I seem very submissive and meek as a wife, but no. He met his match as far as wills. So anyways,
I got him.
So yeah, so he spent a solid 6 months planning the itinerary, planning that. And I'm kind of more of a hippie, and I'm like, no, let's just go over there and see what we feel like we want to do. And he's the planner, right?
Uh-huh.
In reality, in today's world, it's really hard to do that, like, kind of more spontaneous kind of travel, because everything books up, because everything's online to book. Even like going to the Eiffel Tower, it was booked out for like 2 months, you know? So stuff that you want to just, no, let's just go meander. With 5 kids in tow, it's not very realistic.
Yeah.
So maybe that's another trip we'll take where we can just meander, just the 2 of us. But
no, with kids, it's...
No, you have to have a plan.
You have to have a plan. Like, that's a must.
And when it comes to it, like, you have to be flexible, because you never know, like, who's going to be melting down, or and so You have to have that part of it, but like at least like a foundation of a plan, of an itinerary, right? So he booked up all the places. He spent hours and hours, weeks on end, like researching Airbnbs, and this like became like his full-time job. You know, he teaches as an adjunct professor at BYU in the entrepreneurial in the Meredith school. But anyways, he started doing that, and then we just were like, all right, we're doing this.
So do you let the kids know that you're planning this, or is this like, hey, let's surprise them with 5 months away from everything? Because that's another part. How did the kids take it? Because I've got my 13-year-old that I'm like, she would be devastated. Like, my friends.
I know. We let the older two, who were 14 and 12 at the time, know earlier that this is what we were thinking about because of that reason. I didn't want them to all of a sudden, like, because socially you're just more, you're more ingrained and it matters more at that age. So we let them know early, but they were like totally on board. They were super excited. I think maybe part of it is we had just moved to Mapleton.
Okay.
So we weren't like super established and integrated. I mean, we love our neighborhood so much, but it wasn't like leaving like these forever friends, right?
Yes.
So, I had many panic attacks. I kept thinking of Taken, the movie.
So
I'm like, how can I, like, what do I need to do? What jiu-jitsu or whatever do I need to do to prepare? Because I have these scenarios.
Liam Neeson's number on your
I have
speed dial.
I have these scenarios that play out in my mind because fight or flight, I'm like very fight. Like, I'm very fight. It just is like my subconscious. I just ask any of my siblings who scared me growing up, like jumping out. I don't know. I don't know why. I wish I was fly. Like, run away, you idiot. What are you going to do? So anyways, I, as a mother, was like, okay, I hope this goes well. I don't know. I didn't really know what to expect,
So how, like, what was the first week that you're there? Everything's going smooth. Like, where did you go first? What was your...
We were in Spain, like the first month. We started out with like a week cruise. We went down to here. We actually flew into Lisbon, and we left out of Lisbon. We went down to the Canary Islands, and we had like Malaga and Cadiz, like 2 ports in Spain. And I mean, how bad can it be on a cruise ship, right? So that was how we started. But then we were in Seville for 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. I'm not kidding. Like, even just saying the name, my heart is just like, it's such an amazing place. It's the most like Espanol, like the most Spanish city in the world. It's like bullfighting. It's where like the start of everything. Like, I just feel like that Andalusia is what it's called, that region of Spain. It's magic, totally magic. So we had left the dead of winter in Utah, and then it was like, it wasn't hot. It was low 60s over there, but it was just dreamy. But then they started doing online school. We didn't really do online school with the youngers. We just sort of worked with them and did our thing. And we planned out to do the mornings to do schoolwork, and then we'd plan outings for the afternoon.
So what was the, like, I mean, obviously it sounds like a phenomenal trip and everything, but like, was there a point for the kids? Like, was it just to give them cultural experience? Was it?
Yes.
Was it just, hey, we're gonna just build this time as a family? Like, what's
all
the
of the
end
above.
goal of like
all of the
taking
above.
a trip like that?
I like. People need to get out of like the bubble that they grow up in. I feel like I just think it's really important for us as humans to see and experience other cultures and make it a priority. Travel's more affordable than it's ever been. Like, more people are traveling than ever, especially because of, after COVID. It's like people just want to be doing it. And so it's just been a high priority for both me and my husband. Yes, bonding time together as a family, of course, but just the exposure. Like, we just really felt like that was important. So we spent most of January in Spain, and that was like heaven. My husband and I both speak Spanish. You know, we were worried about the accents because we both learned in Latin America and South America. Mm-hmm. And then going over there, like it was a dream.
Is that like that's the one where it's like the lisp almost on the...
Yeah, Andalusia.
Yeah.
You
like
know.
Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Okay.
So, but nobody judged our Spanish. It was so dreamy. And having the language was so fun. Then we spent a month in Turkey, which was wildly different than Spain, obviously. Like very predominantly Muslim country, 5 times a day hearing, you know, the prayers. Yes. It was so magical. And just for them, like so different than what they've been exposed to. Born and raised in Utah County, right? Visiting mosques, learning, and so much rich history, like the history part of it, even just alone, if it was only to learn history and study history, just phenomenal.
So do you feel like when you would go to these places, like, I mean, you always hear the stereotypical, like, oh, if you go to Paris, the French hate Americans, or you go like to some of these places, did you feel welcomed? Did you feel like it was...
Honestly,
people were...
I have never had such loving encounters in my life.
Oh, wow.
There's no scary encounters that we even had. Like, our 2 youngest are very extroverted and gregarious. And so I think just having children with us, and you do worry about that. Like, are they going to be like, oh my gosh, like 5 kids? Yeah. It was like... No, it was the total opposite. They were like, oh my gosh, a family with 5 children. And my Tessa is like a huge hugger. And I mean, they just talk to everybody. They're super, super social. Actually, all my kids are really social. So I am pretty social as well and open. So I don't know. We almost got to the point where we were like, I wish some scary things would happen, because
can I get
this
mugged
is
today?
Honestly, like this is building this false sense of security because there are bad people in the world, you know? So we'd give them these pep talks, especially like Rome, Paris, the bigger cities with the vendors and the different like scams going on and I don't know, just people being whatever. So they got really good at being very direct at no's. You know, with trying to sell stuff, and we tried to do our best to cover the bases, but I just meeting and knowing and rubbing shoulders with human beings and feeling this connection, feeling this like testament of this global brother and sisterhood. I like can't even put words to it, and it makes me feel emotional. I can feel emotions just welling up inside of me. The love that we felt for people and from people, literally everywhere we went. These Airbnb hosts, like in America, they give you a code usually and just say, this is the time you check in and check out. No, they're like waiting there with a fruit basket and milk in the fridge and this is our home and we want you to be happy and what can we get you? And in Turkey, our host brought us dinner twice, brought us figs and walnuts and was like the most gracious and hospitable.
They want to get to know you and actually be a part of your experience while you're there. Yeah,
and it makes all the difference. It makes that human connection makes all the difference in the way you feel about a place. You know, whereas if you go and you just stay in a resort the whole time and you don't get a chance to really interact with people, and there's a time and a place for staying in a resort the whole time. Yeah. Like I'm not whatever. But like to actually be interacting with people that live there and build and feeling a sense of that community, this global community that we're all part of. Like I literally everywhere we went, I would look at my husband and be like, I just feel like maybe we belong here. And by like the 15th place, he was like, you are saying that everywhere we go. Like you just feel like we should move here. Like you're feeling called to this place. I'm like, I know, but the people.
But this is gonna be like, so why is it that, why can't we do that here? Like, did you think about that while you're there? Like, why is it so different here? Like, what is it that's different that you saw? in that instance?
First of all, living in Utah, like, please can we come back to the magic of childhood? Because living in Utah,
What do you
like,
mean the magic of childhood?
well, this, because like everything is run by children here, like overrun. You go to anything and there's like, everybody has such big families here. And so it's so commonplace to see big families. The magic of children, like to witness the way people interacting with our children. We arrived in Turkey 3 days after that big earthquake. And it was like a 12-hour drive from where we were, so we were nowhere near it. But people we talked to had families that were affected and that died. And we're talking to these little restaurant owners, and they're sharing with us about their cousins or aunts and uncles that got stuck in the earthquake, you know? And my Tessa she's 8, and she was like very emotional and would go and just immediately wrap her arms around them. And she cried with these people. And then I would, of course, be like a big sobbing mess. But like everywhere we go, they were acting like our children were these precious jewels, like the most darling, the most like special. And we know this about children, that we should be loving children, that we should be, but because there's so many here, so many big families, that was a big deal. That was a big difference. I thought they were gonna be like, oh my gosh, so many kids, like kind of like we're a circus, which we are, but like just, you know, but it was so the opposite, so much warmth. So I don't know. I want to foster and cultivate that feeling, and I want to interact with other people's children like that. Like,
but here, it's weird. You can't, if you interact with a child here, people think, oh, they're creepy, or they're like, and this is from a man's perspective, like
it might be different from
it's completely
a woman.
different, because for a woman to walk up to kids playing and be like, oh, you're so cute, like so.
Yeah.
People are like, cool. If a guy walks up and it's a completely different.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm always on my yard. When I'm at like the park with my kids, I always feel uncomfortable, especially if like other kids that I don't know like talk to me or something like that. I'm like, hey kid.
It's that whole like a few bad eggs ruin it for everybody, which is really unfortunate. I guess I just like it. As far as my children's friends who are in our home, like being around Europeans, and they have such like a natural sense of family, and they take so much pride in their family and their culture that, I don't know, it just made me want to be like that. And I guess just foster that more.
And you found that everywhere that you went.
Yes.
Like everywhere.
Truly. And everybody talks crap about Parisians. We literally had, I don't know. And like, we must have just had good luck, because I don't want to come off, I don't know, like, oh yeah, she's full of crap. She's just like painting this picture but truly our paths crossed with incredible people. So we were very, very blessed and very fortunate. We spent a month in Turkey. We had 2 weeks in Istanbul, and then went 2 weeks and stayed close to Ephesus, which is just all those ruins. Ephesus, like Ephesians, were all the early Christian sites.
Okay.
You know, Paul's missionary journeys, and it was phenomenal. And just ruins, like just the history, like everything is so old.
It's crazy. Everything. It puts into perspective how young our country is.
You're like, we're such babies. Everything there. And we're like, look at this house. It's 100 years old. Anything that is, if it's 100 years old, we're like, wow, you know? And it's like, oh.
But then you go overseas and you're like, this house is 2,000 years old, or this building or this temple or whatever.
Insane.
Yeah.
I know. So like the ancient Roman structures, forget about it. Because then we started being like, oh, this is only from the 13th century. It's not that old. You know what I mean? Because we'd been over there for a while, and like Roman Empire stuff, like everywhere, Roman ruins, Oh, mind blowing.
So then were your kids, I mean, after the experience was like, keep going if there's more stuff
Well,
that you learned or that you found while you were there.
We had to learn quickly to let go of what we wanted this experience to be for our children. Like, we, yes, would lay the foundation as the parents, but like, they're their own people. And I can't force this child to love history. Like, I just can't force it. And I'm gonna make her miserable, I'm gonna make me miserable. Or I can't force this child to want to go to everything and be like, we tried to scale back the pace of activities, but we were still hitting it pretty hard. Like, we would try to do a day on or a couple days on and a couple days just staying at the rental house, watching movies, like schoolwork in the morning, and then just chill, right? We tried to really factor in rest, but I have one daughter who turned 13 while we were there, who just is more of a homebody naturally. Like, so my husband and I had to let go. We had to be like, if she wants to stay home and she just wants to veg out and read, she loves reading. Like, we have to let her miss things, and it's okay. Like, it's not gonna ruin her life. And, we pulled up to the Temple of Artemis in Turkey, which is like one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, and she wouldn't get out of the car. It's like, you just go and there's not a lot there. There's some columns, and you go and you walk around, and she's just like, I'm tired, I'm tapped out. And we're like, get out of the car. And she's like, no, I'm good. So, I mean,
but then if you force them, then it ruins the experience for the lot. So.
And then you're right, because we have some children, and depending on the day, they seem to rotate, But yeah, if you're gonna fight with one and force them, it is gonna ruin the experience for everybody who actually wants to do it. So we early on, we had to let go. She was old enough to stay back by herself or with one of the youngers if they wanted to have a movie date, And so that was, I think, especially for my husband, because his idea of a vacation is really, really limited on rest. Like, he's very much a doer.
He's a get out and go.
Yeah.
We're here. Let's go see everything.
Even our honeymoon, we had wildly different ideas of what our honeymoon should look like. I was like, what are you talking about? What 10-mile hike are you talking about? I'm going to the pool and I'm going to lay out. What are you smoking? And he's like, this is the agenda that I have for the day. I'm like, anyways, I think it was good for both of us to just let that go. And it was freeing. It's liberating when she just I'm not going to control this. I'm going to just lay and give them the option. Anybody who wants to come. This is what we want to do today and what we want to see. We tried to watch videos beforehand to kind of prep them so they have the context of what things were. There's a ton of material on YouTube. There's a ton of educational videos that are so kids don't walk into place why do I care about this? Or what does it mean,
Yeah.
So we tried to always, okay, this is where we're going next, and let's watch this video. And then it's cool because they see it in person. It's oh, they can make that connection. So anyways, after Turkey, went to Italy. Spent 3 weeks, different parts of Italy all over. Then France, all around the countryside of France. So dreamy. And then we spent the last month in the UK, Scotland, England, all over there. So it was a dream, honestly.
So after it was all over, what does the conversation look like between you and your husband? Was it just that was amazing? Should we do it? Are you planning the next round?
Truthfully, on our flight home, Jason was sitting behind me on this long flight coming home from London, and he's just crying. And because he's just reflecting. He's not like, I mean, you see me crying, it's pretty much 7 times a day that I'm crying. But he's not like that, you know? And he's just feeling so much gratitude for this experience that we've had as a family and for the opportunity to do it. And that all the stars aligned somehow that we could. And that, yes, it's not easy. It's not easy traveling. It's extended traveling with 5 kids.
Right.
Like, trips are exhausting. So, like, you take that and it's like on steroids, right? Everything that's hard about it. The lack of structure, the lack of routine, like, kids really thrive on that structure and routine and knowing what's expected. I mean, we did things without our own, capacity to have that sense of structure, but we're moving every week. You're going to a new place every week to 2 weeks. So anyways, just the things, getting tired, getting hungry, like keeping them, that hierarchy of needs, like, keeping the things, keeping them rested and all the things, not too hot, not too cold. So everybody just had one carry-on suitcase and one backpack, and that was it.
That's what you did the whole 5 months?
That's all.
Wow.
So we were really limited with what we bought. We did send one shipment home of this antique copper in France. I die. They're the best things in my kitchen. So, but we were really limited.
So
really tried to minimize it.
If there was somebody that was possibly considering doing something like that with their family, maybe even not for 5 months.
Oh my
but
gosh.
Like, what advice would you give them? Like,
Go.
what would be your...
Do not let fear keep you home. Go. Who cares if it's hard? Like, people just say, that would be so hard. I could never do that. Yeah, you can. It doesn't matter if it's hard. You can totally do it. Like, it was hard. Like, parts of it were really challenging, but who cares? Like, it was so worth it in, like, so many ways and just even in hindsight, looking back and talking with our kids, like, my oldest, she cried over there for being homesick. Now she's been crying more for missing Europe. And she'll hear a song or smell a smell and be like, this reminds me of, and she's just like a wreck for it. And she wants to go back so bad. So just go. Like, do your best to plan, but you can't be in control the whole time. Mm-hmm. We lost our kids in the subway station in Paris. Terrifying experience. We felt like bad parents a lot. People lose not only their kids, but you lose your temper, you lose your cool, you need to take your space. You're living on top of each other. A lot of the times we were in like 2-bedroom apartments, 1 bathroom, but also like really what's important in life. Mm. Like, we could sell everything and actually live in a 2-bedroom apartment and we would be okay.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need the stuff that like we get wrapped up in America,
See, and that's the wild part. I feel like if you go back even 50 years, like the average house was a tiny little, probably less than 1,000 square feet, and people lived with 8, 10 kids
and multi-generational families too.
And they did just fine. But like we've gotten to this point where we have these luxuries and we don't want to give them up. And so when it comes to doing something that's hard, I don't want to say we've become kind of weak.
Wimpy?
Yeah, wimpy in the sense, I don't want to give up that luxury. I like having 800 outfits to choose from. I don't want to just live out of one suitcase because that's hard. I'd rather just have, but yeah, I like that. Just go. Because it truly, even if it is hard, it's doable.
It's so worth it too. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I just, that's all I want to spend money on is travel now. Like, even for Christmas, I'm like, I don't want to get them things. I'm like done with things. So I don't know. We're brainstorming, but that's going to look different for every family and that's okay. But just don't, I think if anybody was to keep, even as much as I love travel, I was more scared going into it. I was more hesitant as the mother. I'm the worrier. I'm the one who hears noises at night and just automatically thinks somebody's breaking in and, just all the things. I think it's probably more natural for a woman to feel that vulnerability. So I probably would have been the one to say, wait, pumping the brakes. I don't know, maybe we shouldn't, or maybe this, but just don't.
Yeah.
Just don't let that fear. And I think like we watch the news and it's just so negative, and we just hear about so much atrocity that's happening in the world.
Yeah.
That truly, like, I just think, if anything, like, I just felt so much the goodness of humanity, so much goodness that we experienced. It was an overload of goodness.
Well, do you feel like the media and the news, they portray this stuff as like, oh, these people do not like Americans, or they do not like this, or they do, but then you get there.
It was not our experience.
I feel like the people of these countries are the ones that make it great. It's the,
well, don't travel and be an idiot.
Yeah.
And don't travel and be like super like the customer's always right. Like that whole thing doesn't exist outside the US, you know? And I know, it's just so ugly. Yeah. Like don't travel with that like Karen attitude. Like be gracious, be kind, be considerate of others, be aware of others. I mean, just like the basics that you think is like how to be a good human 101, you know? Like
be polite, say
be
please
a good
and
representation
thank you.
of our
Don't be
nation.
entitled.
No, don't come off, and don't come with a subconscious superiority complex just because you're an American, like that somehow you're anything special. Like don't do that. So I just think try to be a good human, and our experience was never ever negative, ever, with just as far as like being an American or like the whole vibe anywhere we went.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I have had not as positive experiences traveling, like on other trips. It just happened to be for these 5 months, which is somehow miraculous that we had such good interactions. It's not like I've never met a rude person, you know? So it's not like I don't have these but it was really great. We were like, maybe we should hire somebody to try to kidnap one of our kids. So they're not so naive. Like this is, you know.
Well, but I think honestly, I think one of the greatest things is the experience that you gave to your kids and seeing those other cultures and seeing that, you know, I mean, America is really one of the richest nations in the world. Like to see that there are places out there that maybe they don't have everything that you have. Maybe that they don't get to have the resources that you have here, and to be appreciative of it, to meet other people from different cultures and see that happiness doesn't just come from the things, it comes from who you're around. I still, in traveling, I went to Mexico one time and we took the little bus, like it's like their community bus, and it drove us through all these areas, and I still will never forget seeing this family. It was 2 boys and their mom, and the boys were teenagers, and they were in this, I mean, just horrid looking place. But they were all sitting at the table. They had a balloon. It looked like they were sucking helium, and they were laughing, having a great time. And I'm like, those are the kinds of experiences that I want my kids to have, is to see that happiness is everywhere. It really doesn't, you know, now we get all this TikTok and social media, and people think that happiness only comes because you have likes or you have followers or you have this and that. So I think the idea that you guys gave your children this amazing experience in seeing cultures and seeing other people and how people live, and that visual of we're lucky, we're happy, we've got these things, but they have this too. It's not just
no, we don't have a monopoly. And I have always been a really patriotic person, and I'm so grateful for the freedoms and that so many things that we so easily take for granted. But my appreciation for other cultures and respect and love and of the good things of these other countries. I mean, I can't even put words to it, to that. And that's, I think, what it's all about. And as far as what you're saying with seeing that we don't have this monopoly on happiness. We took our older two on a service trip to Guatemala, and we were like helping pour cement floors for these little homes that had dirt floors, and putting these cement floors in. And this one family had 9 children, and it was just a single mother and roosters and sheep and dogs and cats, and we left, and it was a similar experience. Like, we talked to our kids about what they thought, and they're like, they're so happy. Like, the kids are just wrestling around in the grass together and laughing, and they're so happy. And then my youngest was like, or the younger of the two was like, they are so lucky. They get to live with all their animals, all their farm animals, get to live in their house with them, I was like, they are lucky, like, just to see that from through the eyes of a child, I don't know. I just think it's kind of invaluable that sometimes we don't even realize that we have these prejudices inside of us, these subconscious prejudices that we don't realize are there. And until you have certain experiences that, you have these paradigm shifts in your perspective, and you didn't know that you needed the adjustment of it. So it was amazing. I want to do it again, but my husband and daughter hauled off and bought like a herd of alpacas. So
now you gotta be.
We're doing that for a minute.
They just want to live with the animals in the house,
I know,
right?
That's right.
When are they going to move in is the question.
I know.
Yeah.
It's true. No, there's good in traveling. There's amazing things, and it's always so amazing and so good to come home.
Yeah.
And be on your turf again, and where everybody knows your name, So.
Well,
coming home felt amazing.
Thank you enough for sharing, because
it's
one of those
just
experiences.
Been a blabbermouth.
Well, it's one of those experiences that not a lot of people get to experience, but I love that when people are able to share it, and even if it's just a little thing, just the advice of like, it doesn't have to be 5 months, but if you're feeling like, man, I just need to go somewhere, like just get out and go experience another culture.
Go for a week.
Put yourself out of your comfort zone and just live.
Totally.
And give your children, if you have kids, give your kids that experience. It's hard, but it's worth it. And that's 100%. I think,
that's the takeaway.
That's the I was gonna say, what is your last little cherry on top advice that you would say?
I just think this world can feel like a really dark and scary place sometimes. Mm-hmm. And there are aspects of it that are horrific, and there's so much trauma and pain and suffering in the world, but you can be, anywhere you go, you can be a light, and you can be a source of joy and love with people all along your path. And you can feel that reciprocated. And I just think sometimes we need to focus more on that, and that I truly believe that humans at their core are good. I think people get wrapped up in some really hard things in this life. Yeah. But that at their core, they're beautiful and good. So.
Very well said. Well, thank you.
Thank you
again.
Thank you for having me.
I will see you next time.
This just felt way less scary than I thought,
Yeah,
no big deal.
This isn't bad.
This is just sitting in Mike's chair.